Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
All right, guys, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast. This episode, we are going to have a returning guest. You guys obviously know who it is, but we're going to get Mr. Michael Pitts from Realtree back on here. And, it's going to be kind of just like, I don't want to say a BS session, but, we're going to talk about what he's been up to, what his season's going to look like. A little bit, probably a little bit different from, the last episode we did, but very excited to get him back on. It's always fun to get the mustache man back on there and, just hang out for a little bit. So before we do that, got to get the partners out of the way. Remember, every discount code for these partners is going to be in the description. Okay. So I'm not going to say them on here. It takes too long and I'm just repeating myself every week. So if you guys want to save some money, go down into the description and use the code for whatever company it is you want to get some stuff from. And man, help support these guys. So first up, we got Working Class Bow Hunter. Been with them for a little while now, and they've got an awesome podcast. I don't know if you guys listen or not, but they did an episode with Lee Ellis from Seek One, which was an awesome episode. So if you haven't heard it yet, go listen to it. I know today, at the time of the recording of this, they dropped one with Legends of the Fall. I have yet to listen to it, but I plan to listen to it tomorrow at work. Those dudes are always putting out good stuff, and they have great merch too. So head over to workingclassbowhunter.com, pick up hats, shirts, koozies, just some of the coolest shirts that I've honestly ever seen. I love wearing them, super comfortable. So next up is going to be Osseo. So my Osseo Wrap X will be here tomorrow. That is going to be my late season stuff. When it gets brown out there, I want to have something that's a little bit more geared towards that. The Raptor camo pattern is really versatile for just all types of whitetail hunting. That's what I'll be using early season. And I've kind of adapted a little bit different style of hunting this year. Kind of going the Cody DeQuisto route, somewhat of the Lone Wolf custom gear route that a lot of those guys do, where they, they're hunting kind of low. I mean, my stand, I think, is only at 12 foot, but it's got really good cover. The backdrop is great. And I've been listening to a lot of what Cody has to say as far as, hunting lower. And I like it. The idea of being lower and getting closer to these bucks, feeling very, very confident with that. And I know my Osseo camo is going to keep me concealed. So if you want to get some new Osseo, whether it's the Raptor camo or the Wrap X camo, go over to OsseoGear.com and check out everything they have. I know that they've got some sale going on. It's like up to 70% off of stuff. And obviously we've got our code as well to save you guys some money. So really thankful to be working with those guys. Another thing you guys need to do is go on YouTube, type in Osseo gear, and you can watch the whole story of how Osseo became what it is. It's got a lot of the team guys on there. It's got Joe on there, and just, a great company to be with and great family to be a part of. So thank you, Osseo, for the continued support. And honestly, I don't plan on ever switching my camo. The patterns are just too awesome. If you've seen my bow, I've got Osseo Raptor pattern limbs. So I'm kind of a huge Osseo fan. So next up is going to be Summit stands. I'm not going to be using my climber as much this year, but I am still going to use it when I go hunt public. I don't think I'll be able to do the lower elevation hunting with that, but with my hang on, I will be able to do that. And but the climbers that climber still gets me in the tree. Very, very safely, very comfortably, quietly. Summit makes a great climbing stand if you want to stick with climbers. If you want to hang on, they got hang on sticks. They got actual hang ons. They have you covered for everything. So head over to summitstands.com. And, season is, at the time of recording this episode, 3.5 weeks out. And there's not much time left. So go get whatever you need, get it ready, get your stuff hung. And that way you can be up in the woods with some of the best quality products that there is. Next up is going to be the Bowtique. So I've had a lot of my friends, and it makes me so happy to see this. I've had a lot of my friends be getting stuff from Mike over at the Bowtique, and he does amazing work. If you guys are working on, custom arrows, or you want a custom build, or you want some type of wrap that nobody else is going to have, Mike at the Bowtique is the way to go. He can make anything that you need, and it's always the best quality I've ever used. So, go support him. Seriously, he's been blowing up lately. He's doing so many different builds. It's insane. Dude's constantly busy. Next up is gonna be Bergie Bowsmith. Actually, I haven't talked to Bergie in a while. I need to text him, call him up, see how he's doing. But Bergie is a wizard when it comes down to bow tuning. He can tune your bow bare shaft out to 15 yards. If you have any questions, you can reach out to him. He'll be happy to answer them. And excuse me, he's also a dealer for a lot of the major brands that we all use. So head over to bergiebowsmith.com, use the code, save some money, get your stuff together, because once season starts, you don't want to be scrambling around, with a bow that's not tuned, or a bow that, or I'm sorry, or gear that's just not really up to your liking. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want the best quality stuff you can get, and Bergie sells all of it. Speaking of best quality, G5 Outdoors. You guys know that is the broadhead that I am using. Another one of those ones I don't really plan on ever switching. I know there's a new broadhead coming from a little promo thing that I saw. I don't know when that's going to drop, but very excited to see that. But I'm going to be running the G5 Mega Meat this year. Just honestly, I've used the Mega Meat for a few years now, and it's the only broadhead I've used that gave me 100% success rate. Every deer I've shot with the Mega Meat, I found them. The blood trails are insane. The hole is devastating. So yeah, that's my broadhead of choice. But G5's got other models you can run. They've got the Dead Meat V2, which is the 1.5-inch cut 3 blade. They have the T2, which is a 2-inch 2 blade, and then they've got their fixed heads, which is the Montec, I believe the Montec M3, and then the Striker X and Striker V2. So they have you covered in everything that you need. So head over to G5 Outdoors, go get your broadheads. And in my opinion, I think you will be using the best broadheads on the market, best brand at least. Next up, Prime Archery. So my bow is completely dialed in. I'm running the Prime Form 34. It's got the center grip technology. It's got I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think it's AST, but it's the first hybrid bow to hit the market, and it's extremely stable. The draw cycle is super smooth. It, in my opinion, is the best bow that I've ever shot. It's the reason why I decided to work with Prime and really wanted to, get them on board with the family. And I don't plan on switching. These bows are amazing, and I'm very excited to finally be able to get it into the woods and hopefully get one of these mature bucks that's showing up on the ground. I know the Prime is going to do it. Next up is Dialed Archery. So Dialed has been hard at work. I'm running the Dialed Proof. It's the best bow sight I've ever used, but they actually just dropped a new sight called the Striker, and is their first non-movable sight. They also dropped a Realtree, Realtree OG camo pattern small batch. So if you Realtree guys out there want that, head over to Dialed Archery, check out all the small batch stuff, check out the new Striker if you don't want to move your sight. But if you want to move your sight, go get the Proof. It is by far the best sight that I've ever used. I really hope you guys can't hear the dog barking right now. But yeah, let's see. Next up, Ace Hardware Social Circle. That's my local bow shop. Always been there when I need them. Really good guys over there. They sell everything that we need. So, go support the little guys. They will get you set up right. Next up is Moultrie. My cameras, really, man, my Edge Pro 2 has been working great. I'm still hoping to get some Edge Pro 3s so I can try those out. I know they just switched over to every photo now comes in as an HD photo, which is fantastic because I get to now see these deer when they show up, and I'm not, seeing a somewhat blurry picture that I'm like, oh, does he have this kicker, or what does he look like? I love it. The things that Moultrie is doing, the cameras have been fantastic. The photo quality is fantastic. The video quality is fantastic. And these bucks are starting to shed their velvet. So if you need to get more cameras, head over to Moultrie Mobile and get the new Edge Pro 3. It is everything that Edge Pro 2 was, but better. Next up is going to be Bow Hunting League. So we have, let's see, I'm recording this on the 21st. So we've got 10 days at the time of recording this, 10 days until the Bow Hunting League closes. So if you have not gotten a team yet, you need to go get a team. Everything, it's all free. You get a bunch of cool prizes if you either get drawn or if you kill a buck, you get entered into the meat wagon drawing, which is a vehicle that they're going to be giving away to whoever gets drawn for it, and you also get a free shirt. All of it is free. It doesn't cost you anything to sign up, and you can literally team up with anybody in the country as long as they already aren't part of the team. So yeah, Bow Hunting League is doing some major things for the bow hunting community. Very thankful that they are pretty much a full-time partner now. And yeah, man, go help support them. Next up is Boning Archery. I'm running the Alpha Vanes. It's a new vane that they dropped earlier this year. It's extremely stable, extremely quiet. I don't get any fishtailing, and I run a heavy helical, that's the first vein I've ever had where it doesn't do that. Boning's been around for 79 years, so they know what they're doing. So if you need new veins, head over to Boning Archery. They got you covered. Next up is going to be 1227 Productions. That's my buddy Brock's YouTube channel. He used to have a different name. He changed it. He wanted to do something that was a little bit more geared towards the Lord and not just hunting and all that stuff and outdoor stuff. It still is outdoor, like fishing, turkey hunting, deer hunting, all of that. But for those of you that like to see things where it's hunting and the Lord mixed together, perfect channel to go check out. So yeah, go subscribe, go support him. God, that dog is losing her mind. If y'all can hear this, let me know, okay? Because next time I'll just lock her up. I don't know what her deal is. Actually, you know what? She's in the crate right now, so that might not help. But anyway, next up is the Scrape Doctor. His scrape products have been by far the best I've ever used. Been having deer hit them. I honestly need to go out and get more ropes out because it's been raining and I've been busy and there's been a lot of stuff going on. So, but his stuff works awesome. So if you guys are going to be running scrapes like I am, head over to scrapedoctor.com, go get you a bundle, use the code down below to save some money, and let him know. Send him your photos. He will, James loves putting up photos of customers and partners and buddies and all that other stuff. So really good dude, really great company, great product. So yeah. Next up, Victory Archery. So I've got my Victory HLRs over there behind me on my bow. 448 grains using the 125 grain mega meat, and those arrows are stacking. I absolutely love them. They're everything the Rib TKO was, but better, which I never thought you could do. It's very similar to the, oh my God, what's it called? The UV 1K. That is a 1K carbon weave on that arrow, but on the HLR, it's a 1.5K. Honestly, man, like the way they did it, what they did, you can now get a 300 spine arrow at 8.1 GPI. So if you guys are very into heavy arrows or heavy FOC, you can do it now, and your arrow weight still isn't, gonna be astronomical. Like I like to have usually 15% FOC. This now is like probably 17, 18. So Victory Archer always makes a great product, and yeah, dude, it's so distracting trying to do this with that dog barking. Oh my God. But yeah, head over to Victory Archery, go to your local bow shop, get you some arrows. They're the best ones on the market, in my opinion. And last but not least is Outdoor Call Radio, which we are going to be going on that, or I am going to be going on that in a few weeks. So very excited for that. It is a radio show based in Iowa, and he's got our show. I think Dan's been running our show now for a few weeks. Oh my God, they're so loud up there. Well, anyway, yeah, Outdoor Call Radio, go check them out. And that's all the partners, man. So before we get into it with Michael, I have to push the word for you guys. I've actually got a scripture I want to say or tell you guys that I was listening earlier to Proverbs, and it's Proverbs 12:27. And this kind of hit me a little bit. A lot of us a lot of us like to make excuses why we don't go do things and prep for season and go hunt and do all this other stuff. But it says right here, a lazy hunter doesn't roast his game, but to a diligent person, his wealth is precious. So it's so important to me for all of us to have a relationship with God. And man, the whole point is like talking about righteous people and righteousness and stuff. Like the verse before, it says a righteous person is careful in dealing with his neighbor, but the ways of the wicked lead them astray. And then the one after, Proverbs 12:27 says, there is life in the path of righteousness, and in its path there is no death. So look, man, Jesus came and took on all of our sin. If you guys listened to the episode with Jay last week, you know that he and I got a little bit of emotional towards the end of it. And that's just because we love what God's doing for us. And, if you feel like there's a hole in your life or a hole in your heart and all that, God will fill it, and he will fulfill everything that you need. That's not to say that I don't still struggle with stuff, because I do. But because of Jesus, I know that all of that has been taken care of. That doesn't mean go on and keep doing it. But when you give your life to Christ and you truly do, and you truly have faith in him, you start to really feel a change coming. And, you ask me to look back. I mean, the change that's happened to me is insane. So I can't have anyone else to thank for that but Jesus, and you guys could have that same thing. So yeah, that's the whole intro. My dog is going absolutely wild. I don't know what is happening, but we got it out, and I know Michael's waiting on us. So let's get started with Michael Pitts from Realtree. The mustache man himself, Mr. Michael Pitts, back on. And y'all know I love getting Michael on here. But your last episode was a ton of fun. And
oh, absolutely.
Dude, the amount of feedback I got, everyone's like, "Oh, dude, you need to get him back on." I was like, I'm gonna, don't worry. Can't do it 2 weeks in a row. I mean, I could, but eventually you and I would probably end up talking about stuff that has nothing to do with deer hunting. So
that's right. That's right.
But yeah, man, what's been going on? I think you were here April or May?
I can't remember exactly when it was. It's been a minute though, so it's good to catch up and regroup and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
But all that's been going on is a whole lot of deer work right now. Of course, that never stops. It's a 365 deal when you get really in depth to it, when you start dealing with summer food plots, fall food plots. But I've been hanging so many stands right now because I hang them for the whole farm. I hang all our lock-ons, so I have to pace myself. With this Georgia heat, it gets a little rough, so typically I'll hang stands up until about lunch, and then I'm done. And most time it takes me till lunch to get a whole set, hung the way I like it and all.
Yeah.
It takes me a couple hours to get everything done. So typically I just hang about one a day, and then I move on to something else. It's not as strenuous, I guess you would say, in this heat because it's been killing us. But they say we're supposed to get a little cold snap next week, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I don't know if cold snap's the right word because I looked at it and it's only like 70 something, low 80s, 70s. But hey, man, I'll take it. I'm ready
for enough fall to get here. Is what I'm ready.
Dude, yeah. And you know what's crazy? So like, I've been so excited about fall getting here and season starting. So we're 3.5 weeks out, and I come to find out on Monday, or I think it was Tuesday of this week, I'm not even gonna be able to hunt opening weekend, like at all. And
really?
Well, yeah. So
work?
No. We have a family friend whose birthday is next week, I think. And I told you about the pug puppy that we have.
Yeah.
Like, we just got this new dog, and I'm sure she's gonna start spouting off at some point in this episode. But we took her to the vet on Tuesday, and we usually schedule vet visits on Tuesday, but my wife didn't want to do that because that's her only off day. She's like, well, the lady was like, well, yeah, we're open Saturdays. What about the 13th? And I look at her and I'm like, you can do the morning if you want. And so we set it for the morning, and I'm feeling good. I'm like, all right, cool. Morning's busy. I wasn't even going to go in the morning, so it's not a big deal. And on the way back from my daughter's volleyball game that night, I come to find out we're doing this dinner for a family friend on the 13th.
Yeah,
in the evening. So
the good thing is you've got about 4 months to hunt.
Yeah,
that's a good thing about deer season. It lingers for a little bit. So
yeah, it's just, dude, it's just frustrating because you spend all year getting excited about it, and like normally I wouldn't even be that upset. There she goes.
Yep, I heard her.
Oh, God. Hopefully I can edit that out in post. But anyway, dude, she's gonna be so distracting. What I was getting at was the spot that is like the best spot that I have right now. Actually, both my private land spots, I can't even hunt on Sundays because one of them's behind a church, and then the other one's my grandparents' place, and they don't let me hunt on Sundays.
Right.
So I could hit public, but the problem is that at public, I don't have any early season spots because I just haven't had time to go scout. So it's like, what? I just won't hunt that weekend. It's less pressure on the deer, gives me more time to plan. And I'll just, me and God had a conversation about that though. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, dude, I want to be mad. I am, but I shouldn't be. And it's just,
that's right.
It was a whole thing. But yeah, enough about my problems. You did remind me though of something I wanted to talk to you about, and I'll save it for a little bit later because I know it's gonna come up. But I told you earlier we're doing this Whitetail series, and I was gonna end it on Jay, but you being a Georgia boy, I figure you're the perfect person to end it with. So this is gonna be the last episode of the Whitetail series. Next week's episode is gonna be just another regular guest episode. But with that being said, what is y'all's preseason, I guess, like what does your preseason look like? You just mentioned you hung a bunch of stands. What else are you doing at Realtree?
Preseason's mainly just, hanging stands, getting lanes trimmed out if you need to do that, because, typically you leave the year before and you think, well, when I return, it's going to be the same. But man, stuff grows so quick around here in Georgia that you come back in there and it's just a bird's nest again. Yep. So you have to trim it all out year after year. So pretty much hanging stands, keeping, we feed protein year round. And this time of the year, they're really on the protein hard. Summertime, they really dig into that protein because the does have fawns. The bucks are in a growing stage. They're growing their antlers and all. So your protein feed is really of high importance this time of the year. So keeping feeders full, hanging stands, trimming lanes, that sort of thing is the main thing that goes on. I'm lucky enough. I've been hunting the land enough to where I somewhat know the way the deer are going to move. So I don't have to get in there and bust up a lot of deer, to try to figure the scenario out. If I was going into somewhere blind, I would probably be doing a little bit of scouting. But, I typically try not to push deer up as much as I can, especially if I've got a good deer lurking around the area. I don't want to be walking all through there and breaking everything up. So I tip a whole lot of preseason scouting just for that fact. I don't want to bump deer that are there. But, it's kind of one of the benefits of knowing the deer and how they travel on that property after being there for so long. But yeah, it's just a whole lot of work and sweat and blood and tears this time of the year is what it is.
You ain't even lying, man.
This heat's so brutal. It makes it hard to get out and do anything. Makes it hard to breathe when you walk outside. So more or less hanging stands and swinging from trees and all that kind of stuff. But it's got to get done. It's got to get done. So, I take it day by day, and my fire department schedule, allows me to get out a lot, because we only work every third day. We're on a 24-48 rotation. So I get quite a bit of time off to be able to get out and do stuff that's necessary, because it's a full-time job when you dive into it and real serious about it. It's 365. It's a lot of work. So that's mainly been my deal here lately, just hanging stands and keeping feeders full and watching cameras and that sort of thing's a lot of what's going on right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, dude. Talking about hanging stands, like I hung mine. God, how long ago was it? Beginning of July?
Mm-hmm.
Middle? No, that was like middle of July, right? And I had my buddy Josh come out there with me and help me out because this is my first hang on I've ever used. I've always used a climber, and I got busted so much in there last year with the climber that I'm like, I need to make a change. So I had talked with Zach Robb from Lone Wolf. And he was, and this is what I was going to ask you. He was telling me about how the guys over at Lone Wolf, like I know Cody DeQuisto does it. I know Zach does it. I'm sure a few of the other guys do it. They don't go up 20, 25 foot. They're at like 12 foot max. And what they're basically doing is like using the backdrop or the cover that's on the tree as cover.
Correct.
And so I ended up doing that. If I sent you a photo of Josh in the stand when we hung it up, dude, I sent it to a few buddies and they're like, dude, we need to get that up like 10 more feet. I'm like, no, because I'll be skylined.
Right.
So like when you're hanging stands, do you have any stands that are maybe hung low, or is it all kind of just 20 foot up, or, like
pretty much I like that 20 foot mark around in there. And there's a couple of reasons. If I was hunting by myself, I wouldn't typically want to be as high. But you got to think from our perspective, I've got twice the scent and twice the movement up in that tree with a cameraman.
Yeah.
So I try to be a little bit higher around that 20-foot level, but I'll also pay very close attention to my backdrops. the cover I got around me. And that's another thing. I can't keep as much cover around me as I would typically like because we got to be able to video. So there's a lot of things we got to change kind of on our side a little bit that makes us a little bit more vulnerable, actually, because we got to open things up to get video, and to get video, they can see us a little better. So cheating that height helps us out a little bit. You know, especially as a bow hunter, you don't want to get too high because your angles change when you do that. And you're actually losing some of your surface area, the deer to aim at when you get super, super high. Then you got to come in right up under the spine, and, you know, it's just a little bit harder. So if I was hunting by myself, I would typically stay about 15 foot and never worry about it. But being you got a cameraman up there, it does help out to get a little bit higher. But, you know, yeah, a lot of people do like to hang high and all, but from an archery standpoint, you're better right there around that 15-foot mark or whatever. You got a better angle. And plus, during early season, you got a lot of the canopies still in there. And if you get too high, the canopies block you out. So there's all kind of stuff that goes into it. I'll rack my brain at night sometimes thinking about scenarios, what I got going on, setups, what I can do to make it a little bit better, you know. So a lot of that goes into play. You know, another thing you got to worry about early seasons, the thermals. They're a lot worse early season. So that's kind of another reason I try to stay a little bit higher, because they're really, really bad with the humidity early season. So,
yeah. What's the terrain like over at the farm? Because speaking of thermals, you know, is it more flat or is it kind of hilly?
it's got its places. It's Georgia, so it's not going to be really hilly, but the actual place, the Callaways owned all the land in the area that we hunt. And they used to call it Rocky Branch Plantation was what they called it. So it's got a lot of rocks on it. It does have some mountainous areas on it. In fact, we've got a real high point on the farm I hunt, which is right next to Realtree. We've got a very high point on it. And there's some areas I would not shoot one with a bow, because if you do, you're going to end up having to pack it out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that bad. There's no way you can drag it out. But that's just a certain portion of the property, not a whole lot of the property, but probably about an eighth of the property is just really bad.
Yeah.
So I've thought about it before, and I'm like, man, it would have to be the right deer to shoot it in that area. So we got a little mixture of everything, because we do some quail hunting out there. So we got the flat plantation kind of cut. So it's a good variety of everything, from the little bit of mountainous terrain to flat terrain, so it breaks it up, so you don't get, beat down with being in the same kind of terrain all the time.
Yeah, I got you. I just, the thing because I've been paying a lot of attention to, thermal stuff and learning about that. And a lot of all right, so on public land out by me, that's all that you're going to have to worry about in one specific section, because it's nothing but ridge tops and creek bottoms and stuff like that. Another side is so flat, I don't even think thermals are really going to be that big of a deal. Right. Obviously, they will, right? But whatever direction the wind's going is probably what it's going to be doing the whole rest of the day.
Yeah.
And my two private spots is the same way. I've got a huge ridge system at the back end of one of them. And actually where I'm hunting at is this clearing on top of a small hill that I legitimately watched it switch, hunting in the mornings. I'll puff the wind and I'll see where it's going. And then as soon as that sun comes up, it's just everything's falling down, which is really what I want,
Right.
I just was curious if you obviously guys are probably seeing the same thing, but it's just, I see what sucks is I wanted to come out to the farm so bad this summer.
Yeah.
I wanted to so bad. I just could not find the time, man.
And it's been with me. I've been busy myself. It's been wide open. We'll definitely get some time and, take a tour around, look at everything for sure.
Yeah, because you guys aren't that far from me. You're like 2 hours. And I remember telling my wife, I was like, yeah, by the way, at some point this summer, I got invited to go check out Real Tree Farms and see like all this cool stuff. And she's like,
Uh-huh.
oh, it's really cool. And then time came when I'm like, all right, this is probably what I want to do. And it's like softball,
Oh
trips,
yeah. Yeah.
birthday parties. Oh, I got to work this day. It's like, God dang, dude,
Uh-huh.
it's just,
Something every
you can't find time. But well,
oh,
I'll make it out there eventually. But so like, all right, so we got the preseason stuff. You guys do
yeah.
food plots and you feed,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
So what differences, because I don't think I've ever asked this, what differences are you seeing in the deer movement around the food plots and the deer movement around the feed? Because I've heard a lot of people debate that before, where, you feed
Yeah.
and they're different, food plots are natural and that they're kind of,
Right.
I haven't seen that, but
Yeah.
curious if you have.
Georgia changes throughout the season, and you almost got to change setups 3 times, or just have a bunch of stands everywhere like I do. Sometimes you can put walk boards between my stands just because I got them hanging all over the place for different winds, different this, different that. Uh, but mainly early season, if you've got any fruits, that's the place to be. If you got persimmons, crab apples, that kind of stuff that they love, those can be a really good place to set up. So, I always try to target those. We're lucky to have a good amount of persimmons on the farm, healthy, mature persimmons that drop bucket loads. So I target those a lot early season, and early season is good for feed too. Uh, if you do
My
feed
favorite
with,
time of year, dude. I love it. It's
yeah,
you
oh
want to
yeah,
kill a big buck, do it early season in Georgia, because
right,
after that, good luck.
right,
It's so much
yeah.
harder.
Georgia is kind of weird as far as that goes, and I'll get into that a little bit in the mid-season phase. But early season, I'm concentrating. Georgia's it's legal to bait in Georgia, so I'll hunt over bait a little bit, and I like to target persimmon trees, crabapple trees, stuff of that nature, because they really seems like when they first get up, they want to target those, and you can have a lot of success there. Uh, so I will set up originally for some of that. But once you start moving on into season and get into that mid-season territory, you're going to start dealing with acorns falling. And when the acorns start falling, they start pulling off the feed totally. So you've got to shift there. They're going to be in those bottoms and stuff like that. If you got a good white oak crop, they love those. So they're going to be around those. Problem is, if you have too good of a crop, it spreads them out, so there's no pattern in them. But if you only have 1 or 2 good trees dropping, then you can kind of still pattern them and get on them as far as where they're going to be. Like last year, we had such a great acorn crop, it was mass chaos because there was no pattern to where they were going or what they were doing. Once they got to that feeding zone, they just walked, just wherever. They just weaved in and out, and there was no pattern in them. So it was kind of tough there. But they're going to be on those acorns, mid-season, and they really pull off the feed then, and you don't. Your feed usage will go down drastically. You know, typically they're eating a couple of 100 pounds every 3 to 4 days on us right now, and you can cut that in half once those acorns start dropping. So you got to kind of change your focus and move into the hardwoods or around the acorn trees or whatever, because your fruit's gone. Your acorns are starting to drop, so they're making a shift. And so I'll shift into those areas and work those areas for a while. And then, once if you get a lot of rain, your acorns are gonna, mildew and spoil a lot quicker. So they'll get done or they pick them all up or whatever. But once that food source is gone, they'll start moving to these food plots then. So then that's another total different setup going over and hunting these food plots and all. And then the rut comes in, and throws a whole kink into it. And, a lot of people might disagree with me, but a bait pile's the worst place you can be when the rut's going on, even the pre-rut to a degree, because one, the bucks aren't worried about feed. You've seen them, they'll lose 50 pounds during the rut and just run themselves to death. So they're not worried about feed. They're just worried about does. And after a while, the does will get so skittish of the bucks that they won't come to the feed because they know that's a target area for the bucks to look at, and they get hassled, so they avoid the feed. And what I've found during that transition area, as far as the rut goes, you'll if you sit back and watch and pay attention to what's going on around you, you'll start seeing these bucks develop new trails that are basically just skirting the areas they think does will be, whether it be a feed pile, whether it be a green field, whatever it may be. They're not going to commit to it, but they're going to have trails set up to where they can visually see it. And if something's there, they pull to it. If not, they keep moving. And lots of times you'll never even know they're there. So you kind of got to find those scouting trails that the bucks use to, view everything and not actually commit to it, because you think they're going to commit in there to that bait pile or to that food plot or whatever, and they're not. They're going to view it from a distance and keep on moving if nothing's there. And my rule is, if I see a buck I'm after do the same thing twice, I'm moving my setup to try to move in, because being a bow hunter, you've got to be within that 50-yard range, and I don't even like to take that shot. I'd rather be 40 and in all day long. Mm-hmm. So you've really got to close the ground, and you've got to do it quick, because if you sit back too long, they'll change their trail or whatever, and they're just doing something totally different again. But everybody thinks the answer is pour a pile of corn and sit over it, and it's not. I mean, thinking back on all the bigger deer I've killed, I've had to come off the bait to kill them. Bait's good for does, bait's good early season and late season, but that middle portion, sometimes it takes some scouting and watching and kind of getting in their head a little bit to see what they're after and what they're doing. So, there's really 3 transitions that I'm using throughout the same year, and it's a lot of work to move stands and ship with them, but that's the life of a bow hunter.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that, though, because I was just thinking about it when you were saying it, and I was thinking of my, I guess you could say, big wood spot that I was telling you about earlier, where I've got that big opening. It's on top of a hill, and there's ridge systems in the back. And while I haven't seen, I've only killed 2 deer off that property. One of them was him over bait because it was the second season. And, I've kind of had this idea of all right, early season over there. I know, which I need to send you some photos, dude, this year. My God. But
you sent some earlier. It looked like you had some good ones.
Oh, it's gotten better. Trust me, it's gotten better. But yeah, I've always said that specific spot, if you feed up till about October, they'll respond to it. And then it starts trickling out. And then by the time you get from, the first 2 weeks of October into the last couple weeks, and pre-ruts going off and all that stuff, they really won't hit it much. They'll hit it at night and maybe come through every now and then, but there's no consistency. No. So I've got this plan of hunting up there early in the season and then moving to the back side of the property where the ridge systems are. I know they've made scrapes there. I've seen trails. I've killed a doe back there, which that's kind of just, she was milling through and I got lucky, but I know that they're using that area for travel, and I've seen funnels go through there before.
Yeah, lots of times those bucks will run those ridge tops because they can look down both sides. They can cover a lot of ground, and that's all they're trying to do during that time period is lay eyes on the doe. So, they'll run those ridge tops because they can look down both sides and cover a lot of ground quick. That's a good place to set up on them during the rut.
Yeah, sure. So I think that's probably what I'll do in late October, early November is, and that's if, that's if I'm even able to make it out there. God knows what's going to happen on the other spot, because I know how I get. I know how I get. But yeah, if I go do that, I would say it'd probably be more beneficial, because I've tried, man. I used to have the same idea of all season, if there's bait, they'll be there. And I've learned now from 6 years of doing that yeah, they'll be there, but there's a method to doing it. You can't just pour out, you know, a 40-pound bag of corn and expect a 160-inch deer to come walking in every
Correct.
single time. He might do it once, and if
Right.
you're not there, then you weren't there, you
Right.
know? And
Right.
it just kind of gets to me because, like, I got buddies that, you know, live in states that you can't bait in, and they're
Yeah.
all like, oh man, you know, baiting's cheating, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, it's really
Uh-huh.
not. I was like, you don't
Yeah.
know what it does to these deer because it changes their patterns.
Right.
So,
It does. It
and in
changes a
Georgia,
lot.
you have to do it.
Yeah.
You know, all our neighbors are doing it. So if we're not,
Right.
I mean, we might as well not even go.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
have you ever, because I have a spot that's kind of like this, and I was thinking about it when you're talking about the acorns and putting food out and stuff. So like the transition from early season to, I guess you could say maybe early pre-rut when those acorns start falling.
Uh-huh.
Do you guys have a spot that you feed at, and then once you see these acorns start falling, say it's kind of the same area, do you stop feeding there and then solely focus on the acorns? Excuse me. Or,
No, we got our protein feeders run year round.
oh, okay.
So they're just trough feeders. So we don't move them. They're stationary. They stay there. Occasionally I'll shift and put a little corn pile here or there if I'm moving or whatever. But typically when the acorns are on the ground, if you put it in an oak bottom where there's a bunch of acorns, they're not going to touch that corn.
Yeah.
I mean, they will. Don't get me wrong. They're going to come up there and eat it, but it's not going to be like you think that they come in
Like
there.
it was in early season.
Yeah, because they'd much rather eat that white oak acorn that's laying right there than they had that corn. So, and it's almost like they get burnt out on it, you know, around us because everybody feeds it. It's all around. It's plentiful. And so it's almost like they just welcome the change of a new food and a new source. And so they forget about the protein, the corn, whatever else is there. And I think they probably know they got a limited time to eat it too, because it's not going to be there long for, you know, the tree stops dropping or, you know, mold and mildew set in due to the rain and wet weather. You know, that has a lot, you know, to it as far as how long the crop lasts. But yeah, they really give up on a lot of that stuff, you know, when the acorns, if I can find a good white oak that's dropping, I'll put a stand up right on it. And it's weird out there on us because we've got some trees that drop every year. We got some trees that seldomly drop. We got some that are every other year. So you just got to get in there and kind of check out what trees are, you know, bearing acorns and that kind of stuff before season, kind of know what you're dealing with. But yeah, they get real hung up on those acorns when they start dropping, and they totally just walk away from everything else. We've still got the feeders full though, you know, to answer your question. There's still protein in all the feeders. We feed 4S, and they've got a good little system. For 8 months out of the year, they set you up on a high protein feed. That's, you know, you got the fawns that are nursing, you got the bucks growing antlers, you want max protein. But during hunting season, when they don't need all that protein, they run the protein down and kind of run up the carb status and the corn and all that to make it more of kind of like an attractant and all. Plus, it saves you a couple of dollars a bag during that time frame. For those 4 months, you save a little bit of money. So they've got a really good system worked out with how you feed on a year schedule to kind of tailor what the deer wants and needs. So yeah, we keep it running year round, even when they're not targeting it a whole lot. And that trough might sit there for 3 weeks before it goes empty. It's still there for them, you know, to get. Yeah.
I mean, that's just the time for the raccoons to come in and fatten up before it gets cold. I mean,
believe it or not, we put a lot of pressure on the predators, and I don't know if it's that or the feed or whatever, but we don't get a whole lot of coons messing with us. I don't know if they don't like that feed or whatever, but they don't get in there a whole lot. But like I say, you know, we trap real heavy, you know, and that kind of stuff. So we keep the predators down as much as we can for, you know, everything. So that helps out tremendously.
I've got one raccoon. He actually daylighted today, which it's even ridiculous that I'm saying that. I named him Larry because he's the only raccoon that daylights. And I know it's him. I can just kind of tell, you know, you see him enough. And That's
That's
all
right.
I've gotten on camera today. And I'm like, dang it, Larry. I'm like, go get,
Uh-huh.
the other big bucks, dude. You hang out with them all the time. Go tell them
That.
to show up. I want to see what they're looking like right now. Like
Yep.
it's so
Yep.
funny, man. And Larry, I'm telling you, Larry helps my bank account go down much faster because he'll go in
That's
there and the thing is,
right.
I don't really mind,
Yeah.
like
Larry got to
no,
eat too,
yeah, like normally I'm annoyed by it, but I'm like, you know what,
Uh,
Larry, you're good. You'll get the
you're
pass.
good. You're good.
But yeah, man, the reason I asked though is because last year the acorn crop in this spot was so
Mhm.
good that like we didn't have to feed for a couple weeks.
Exactly.
And
They
and
got
then
all.
once it was gone, you bring it right back and these deer keep coming back. And
Yeah.
one thing I want to ask you though, and sort of maybe transition away from the feed stuff,
Yeah.
it might come back up, but
Uh-huh.
something I've learned and really have been focusing on a lot is after with a few guys and doing this whitetail series, the one thing I keep hearing is creek bottoms and creek crossings
Uh-huh.
and all of that. Do you
Right.
guys hone in on that on your property? Is that something that
Yes.
like you pay
I
attention to?
love creek bottoms, and I like hunting near water in general. I don't know why,
Hmm.
but I've always hunted creek bottoms. One of the main things a creek bottom could be good is they will create funnel areas because there might be a lot of areas that the deer can't cross easily, and then all of a sudden there's an area they can cross very easily. So you got a little pinch point there that a lot of deer are using, and they are good to set up stands on. And it's easy to find the trails and the crossings on those creek banks because they wear them down, so you can really, when I start scouting, that's where I start, is because of the fact that I can find their trails pretty easy
Hmm.
through that creek system and then follow them from there and kind of see where they go. I'm a firm believer in it because a lot of times that's the first thing a deer's going to do when he wakes up is go get that water or whatever. They've got to have it for survival.
Hmm.
So that's another thing. It's almost like feeding away because they got to have that water. And it's just like us, how many people keep a bottle of water on their nightstand?
Me.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
So kind of like those deer, the first thing when they wake up, they just want to go get a drink of water, freshen up, whatever, before they go see the ladies. You never know. But yeah, I've always liked to be near water and creeks just because it's so easy to find their crossing points, and it's just pinch points and it's funnels that you know you'll see, like if there's 200 yards where they can't cross and all of a sudden you find that spot that they can, there's going to be a lot of deer using that area to cross, and you can tell some are beat down and some are almost worn down into a bowl, they're used
Mhm.
so much. And it's always a great place to start, and it's a good place to set up a stand on those creek crossings. I love it.
So how far off the creek are you setting up? Because I've got a place in mind that is, I mean, it really is a good spot. It's on public, but it's basically a ridge top that there's a creek right down, probably about
Right.
100 yards. And when I hunted it 2 years ago, that was my first time ever being there, and I
Yeah.
had bucks come walking up. Now, granted, I chose the wrong tree. It was a whole thing. Plus, I wasn't putting thermals in my mind,
Yeah.
and it was morning, and of course the sun comes up, I see these deer, and unbeknownst to me, my scent is going straight down to where they were, regardless, because the scent was, or the wind was in my face when I got
Yeah.
there. The next thing I know, I'm looking, I'm texting my mom or whatever, and I look up and I see racks, and I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
So I get the bow down and I'm just waiting, and the wind must have been going straight because they came
Uh-huh.
up, and as soon as they got right in front of me, they instantly stopped and just started blowing and gone.
Right.
So
Correct.
I was probably 100 yards off the creek.
Yeah.
Do you got, like, I guess really, how close are y'all getting to these creeks?
I want to be able to shoot the crossing, so I'm right up there on it. Problem is a creek's going to be in a low area. So you're gonna have to find out what wind works best for that area. And that's where it gets tricky because I've been in some areas, and if you will look at the way wind travels and how it backfills and all that, it gets crazy. I mean, even one tree makes wind do all kind of crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just weird how it all works. And I've been in areas before that, people are like, I don't ever get in the bottom. I don't ever get in the bottom. But if you will try it during different wind directions and find that wind that's just got the path, because like I'll look at a situation and say, I need to set this stand up for a north wind. Well, I get in there with a north wind and I'm getting some back feed and, it's settling or it's pushing deer out. And I'll start looking at it from a different scenario and work a different wind, like, try west wind. And sometimes you'll find that wind that'll travel through that area to where you don't get a whole lot of thermal buildup and backwashing and all that kind of stuff. And, you can get in there and actually hunt, because I've gone in there with scenarios that I thought would work and the wind just does not cooperate with me due to the hills or whatever. Mm-hmm. So don't give up on it right away. Try a different wind direction and see if, the wind doesn't travel through there a different route that, is not getting all that, thermal stuff. So it's weird, sometimes you got to reset up and hit it from a different side or whatever. But you can usually typically find a wind direction that'll work.
Yeah.
It just takes time and patience as far as doing it, but yeah, I like to be able to shoot a creek crossing, because that's where, they're going to be neck down and exactly where they're going to be standing.
Yeah.
So
if I hit that this year, which I was planning on doing, I'll probably go like maybe 50, 60 yards closer. Cause we actually scouted it that same year in the off season. And me and Josh went down there and we were standing in the creek and I'm like, okay, well, this is where the deer came from. I see exactly where they're coming from. I was up there. No wonder, like I kind of realized like, okay, I needed to be closer. Have you ever had, and I've actually never even thought of this, but have you ever had the situation where you're on top of a ridge and say it's the morning time, so thermals are rising, but you're at legitimately like the point. So you've got two thermals coming up, and I don't know if that's really how it works. So I guess really I'm asking, does it work that way? But like if you're on top of a point and you're facing, one way, and then thermals come up, it's supposed to go over you, but then you got thermals coming up the other way and they kind of clash. Does that happen?
I don't know. And I've looked at it, in depth and tried to figure it all out. And there's so many different scenarios that it's hard to keep track of all of it. And I got to where I stopped looking at all that stuff because it just confuses me anyhow. And sends me, I'm sitting here going, good gosh, what is really going on here?
Yeah.
So
it's like there's no way to get in.
Yeah, I just go into different scenarios and I'll, kind of see how it's working and play it from there, because you can sit there with a wind, deal or whatever, because there's lots of times, especially when you get in those bottoms and all, it says it's coming out of the north, but you're catching wind out of the west just due to the way everything's cycling through that bottom and all. So that's why I say if one wind direction isn't working, just try another one and see, because, if the wind's coming out, if you were hunting it out of the west and you move over to the east, there's going to be a totally different pattern that, of wind travel from that direction. So that's why I say usually you can find something that'll work and, keep your scent, but each day is different. You're going to have different humidity. You're going to have different temperature. You're going to have a morning hunt versus an evening hunt, which is totally different as far as the weather's concerned. So there's a lot going on with the weather that almost it's overbearing when you get to looking at it, especially with the wind. If you'll pull it up and just see what, like a tree in an open field, and see how the wind travels around it and all, it's crazy. And when you get in the bottom where there's hundreds of trees and hills and everything else, a lot of times you don't know what it's going to do. And the weatherman's only right. Well, it's the only profession to where you can be wrong consistently and keep your job. So if the weatherman can't tell me if it's going to rain or not, how am I supposed to trust this dude telling me what the wind's going to do at any given time?
Well, it's Georgia, man. Our wind is never consistent.
No, it's not.
I mean,
and a lot of times in Georgia, you just got to get in the tree and hunt.
I have literally sat, like I remember last year sitting, and looking at the wind. It was supposed to be a good wind. And
Mhm.
one of the bucks I wanted to shoot ended up showing up, but he caught
Mhm.
my wind. And I'm like, how did
Right.
he? So I got the checker, and I had checked it before, and it shifted on me, and I didn't think to
Right.
check because it was
Yeah.
kind of a little bit to the point like you're not really going to feel it. And
Correct.
so when I got in the stand, I puffed up and it was going in my
Yep.
face. I'm like, all right, cool, we're set. Dude,
Right.
after that buck showed up, I knew I wasn't going to kill him.
Uh-huh.
Because what he did is he came in facing me and then broke
Right.
to his left.
Right.
And I had no shot. So I was like, well,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to shoot him. I might as well just, because why did you stop there? You should have
Yeah.
come through. Sure
Correct.
enough, the wind was right in his face. And I
Yeah.
mean, I use camo dust. I've got I was dusted down and all that stuff, but
Uh-huh.
nothing is 100% effective. So it's,
Well, yes. Now I had, a similar scenario. It was opening week of last year. I went into an area hunting there were 2 deer I wanted to kill last year. And I went in there and set up on him. And the wind was kind of light that day. It was consistent, but light wind. And I was in that stand. So it would have been a dominant, probably northwest wind. But, the deer was coming in and coming straight to me on a string. And I was like, well, it's about to go down. And all of a sudden he just stopped. I mean, just dead stopped. And you could tell something was wrong. He turned around, walked out. And I said, what in the world just happened? The wind's right. He didn't see me and everything. And so I got, just some chalk out. And sure enough, even though the wind was hitting me in the face, when it got real calm, those thermals and all that were back feeding, and I hit my puffer, and it was going straight out over the food plot. And I was like, golly. But I was hunting the right wind, and everything. But once that wind settled down, some weird stuff started going in. It was like it was back feeding, and there was just enough force there to carry it out 50, 60 yards. I mean, he was literally about 60 yards when he smelt me, and I was like, son of a gun, I done ruined this deer. But that just goes to show you, Georgia's just one of those states you never have anything consistent. If you don't like the wind, just sit there 5 more minutes because it's going to change.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times you just got to bear with it and sit with it, and whatever happens, happens.
Well, I've seen it bounce off trees.
Yeah.
Like the same spot. I puff the wind and I watch the little, I don't know what it is. It's like baby powder or whatever. It's that dead downwind orange thing. I don't know what that is, but
stuff like that.
Yeah, whatever kind of dust it is. But I puff it and I'll literally watch it go behind me. And this doesn't happen every time, but it has happened where the dust goes behind me and it hits whatever tree it is and it comes right back. And I'm just well, what do I do? Like, I know it's too late to get down. I'm just going to have to hope he doesn't smell me. So it is weird,
look
man.
at some of those charts and all, just pull up how woods affect, wind patterns and all that. And it gets into depth as far as what wind does when it's, it's unreal. And it's to a point where I can't understand it all. And I don't think there's any way you can plan for it in that depth when you got that many trees, such different terrain around you, and every day is going to be different. So, like I say, it's factored on so many different things as far as humidity, how fast the wind's going. Like, I hate being in a dead still. There's no wind. And that I start freaking out when that happens, just because there's so many different variables that can happen. But, I like a good, consistent 4 or 5 mile an hour wind, or maybe even a little more, just to keep my wind pushed out. But I do like the quietness from time to time because I love hearing the footsteps before I can see what it is. So I like being able to hear good too. And with a good, wind, a lot of times you can't hear all that stuff. But that's always been one of my favorite things throughout all the years of deer hunting is, it's almost like gambling. You hear those footsteps and it's like, what's it going to be? It could be a buck. It could be a doe. It could be, so, you never know what you're going to get. Yeah. It could be a poacher,
Right.
You never know.
I learned the hard way last year. If it is anything above like 15 mile an hour.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if you remember, but late season last year, we had, I don't know what was going on, but we had some strong winds coming.
Right.
And it was bitter cold. And me being me, wanting to go hunt and just wanting to kill something, I decided to get in the stand. And I literally have a video of me swaying back and forth 25 foot up. And I'm just like, dude, what am I doing? I'm cold, so I can't even stay fully still.
Right.
And these deer aren't going to get up. And I may have seen one deer, right? And so I learned the hard way where I'm like, I can't control what the wind's doing. It's supposed to be behind me. I'm puffing. I'm seeing it go all everywhere. So if we get that again, I'm probably going to sit it out just because there wasn't any movement. And late season for me is my least favorite time. Like I used to not like the rut, but to sort of transition, because I think we've mainly been talking about early season. What does your y'all's pre-rut look like leading into the rut? Like, are you guys utilizing mock scrapes? I know you said you're changing up setups. Are you totally still looking at feed, or are you kind of looking more at, like, I guess, rut patterns at that point?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm looking at rut patterns then. And, a lot of people, the rut in Georgia typically, where we are, typically happens that first, second week of November. But really that last week of October, I really like. I like that pre-rut stage a little bit better than the full rut, because when the full rut comes in, there's really no pattern in them. You're just hoping that doe runs by you or whatever, you catch one out scouting, whatever. But I like that pre-rut because those little scout trails I told you about earlier, they're starting to work and build those, and there's still some consistency to your mature bucks at that time. So if you can find those little trails they use to basically visually see everything, you can kill a lot of good deer by finding those trails. Lots of times it takes a little bit to find them because they might be different yearly. They're going to be off the beaten trail because they hadn't been using them beforehand. So it's kind of a new system. So sometimes it takes a little watching, but after you see one do it once or twice, then you can, kind of go over there and set up to the area. You think I pick out a tree or whatever in that area that I'm interested in when I'm, visually watching everything. And then I'll go stand up there the next day or whatever and try to get back on him. So, it's preseason. I mean, pre-rut is pretty good to me. I've never been big on using a whole lot of scents or, doing mock scrapes or anything. I might try a mock scrape here for long just to see or whatever, if it does anything. There's a lot of people that use them during the summertime and find some, decent success. And deer scraping year round. They use that as communication within the herd. They're not as abundant, as they are like during the rut. But a lot of people think they only lay scrapes down during the rut, and that's false. They use that year round for communication. They've got so many glands, in their eyes and mouth and, their interdigital glands, and all that is used for communication through scrapes and, just everything else. So, I don't know. I was going to try, maybe a little mock scrape or something this year, but I've never been real big into the scents. I think it disrupts a lot of stuff. I've seen does come in and smell it and act a fool and, feel like you kind of ruin the area. I've had some bad experiences, like with estrus, with like if a doe comes in, mature doe, and she smells it. I don't know if she thinks big bucks are going to come hound or whatever, but I've seen them get real leery around some of that kind of stuff. But then I've had bucks come in with their nose straight to the ground, following it like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
But just the unknown of how they're going to react to it. Lots of times I just, hunt the way I always have and, never use a whole lot of scents or anything. There's a lot of people that use, that natural herd scent that's supposed to relax deer and all that kind of stuff. And I've never really gotten into it, but, probably need to try it a little more, just to see if I can get something to work.
See, I used to think, and especially the earlier years when I used to think you get doe and estrus out in the corn pile and you're going to get the state record, right? Like just the dumb stuff that I was doing. But I remember a few years using doe and estrus, and like I had to learn the hard way what it tasted like. It's
Oh, yeah.
bad time. But
Yeah.
getting away from the negative side of it, I've had mixed success with it.
Uh-huh.
You know, I killed my first deer off of it. It was
Right.
a little 1.5-year-old, like really nothing crazy, but maybe
Uh-huh.
2-year-old. But I've also seen, you know, other bucks, like one of the bucks on my wall right now. The day I killed him, he came in and there was food
Uh-huh.
and there was a mock scrape that I
Right.
put estrus in because it was the
Yep.
3rd week of October. So I'm like, you know, let's just try it. This dude
Yeah.
comes in and he sniffs it and he literally jumps. Like, you ever seen those deer when they jump around, kind of like how, you know, Bambi did when in the movies?
Right.
He
Right.
does that. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I think it
Yeah.
freaked him out. And he didn't
Yeah.
go away from it, but I don't know if he was like, oh,
Just
already?
a little uneasy. And
Yeah.
that's
And
what
so,
I've seen it from does and bucks. So
yeah, my thing is and I hope James would, you know, because I'm partnered up with the scrape doctor. I hope he doesn't hear this and
right.
get mad. But
Uh-huh.
my thing is if any company or anybody could get the thing that brings in the biggest
Right.
buck and put it in a bottle and sell
Oh, yeah.
it, all these other companies would be out of
Yeah.
business. So
They'd
like
be
the thing that I've noticed, because I run scrapes year round. Like I've had or oh my god, ropes out
yeah.
uh since June,
Uh-huh.
May, so something like middle of the year, right?
Right. Right.
And you know, they've been hitting it. That
Yeah.
it's probably been washed out a few times and the ropes have fell off the tree and I've had to go in and fix it and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But I haven't seen them act any type of way around them other than just interested. But
Yeah.
I have seen it with the estrus stuff, you know, and
Yeah. The estrus is what really tends to kind of put them on alert or do
yeah,
something kind of funny.
it just makes me wonder, like, are the does actually laying down like a real estrus scent when they do these scrapes? Like, how are, I mean, I'm sure that some of them are, right?
Yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
you know, ammonia that's in their urine is gone in 15 minutes. So
Right.
what scent?
Yeah.
It's
It's
got to be
quick.
the gland scent. So where are they getting this from? You know,
Hmm.
it just makes
Yeah.
me wonder, like, I don't plan on probably using any estrus this year just because
Right.
I've been doing it, you know, as a last ditch effort and it's never worked. So
Yeah. That's what I've run drag rags with it and that kind of stuff, just trying to see, kind of what's going on. And you'll see some deer that come through that kind of smell it. And, I've seen deer come through, not even pick up on it. Now
yeah,
it might be 2 hours, later after I've laid that trail in there. But I've just never seen enough results from the estrus and all to really, do it all the time or every time or whatever. So
yeah,
I think stuff like the mock scrapes and all's better because that's more of a curiosity and a communication kind of deal versus, the breeding
attraction.
aspect of everything. So, I'm always, up for trying something just to see if it works. Throw a camera on it. If you get some, bunch of deer showing interest in it, it's something you keep on with. But I don't think there's anything out there that I'm just, have to use all the
Yeah.
time, every time. Uh,
Do you guys like pre-rut? Or well, actually, let me just ask it this way. Do y'all call a lot around that time of year? Or
you
have you
know,
had success calling?
Yes and no. There are areas I do, and there's areas I don't. In Georgia, I don't do a lot of rattling and that kind of stuff. A lot of people have good luck, especially in the little area I hunt that's managed and the buck to doe ratio's right. It can be productive. In the Midwest and all that, it works great.
Mhm.
You see a lot better response to it in the Midwest than you do here. A lot of times in Georgia, when I get the beating horns together, I feel like I'm just scaring the woods
Yeah.
almost. But out in the Midwest, you beat the horns down and, you'll see deer popping in from all directions trying to figure out what it is. I have had it work in Georgia, but I don't do it a whole lot. And it seems to work better in the morning than it does in the afternoons, uh, around here in Georgia. So I do dabble with it a little bit. And, I always keep a grunt call with me, and if I see one crossing that might not be coming my way, I might try to throw a couple of light grunts to try to get him to come investigate. You know, Most of the time it doesn't work, but there's some that'll perk their ears up and come in, and believe it or not, I've heard a lot of snort wheezing going on, around our farm. So sometimes I'll throw a snort wheeze out there every once in a while. Sometimes I think it works better than a grunt does. But then again, we got a pretty good buck to doe ratio, so our land kind of hunts more like the Midwest a little bit, I would say, than most of your areas, just because that land that we hunt has been managed hard for the past 40 years or better, so gosh, it's probably longer than that, actually. So that land's been managed forever, strictly managed. So you've got, the right buck to doe ratio and all, and that calling works better when you do have the better buck to doe ratio.
Yeah. Y'all ever throw that bleak can out there?
Yeah, I've done it a little bit fast, and actually, they'll kind of respond to it from time to time.
Dude, I called in a 160-inch buck on public one time. I've told you the story with a bleak can.
Right.
So,
right. And it's weird, how one day they'll be receptive to it and one day they won't, as far as any call goes.
Yeah.
It just depends on the temperament the deer's in, because I've had the same deer come out and you grunt at him until you can't breathe anymore and he doesn't even look up at you. And then the next day he comes out and you hit one little soft note and he's right on top of you. So a lot of it's got to do with the temperament the deer's in when you do it, I believe. It's just like us, sometimes we want to be sociable, sometimes we don't. Sometimes you want to fight, sometimes you don't. So, I think a lot of whether something works or not has got to do a lot with the temperament of the deer and kind of what mental state he's in. What works today might not work tomorrow. Do what?
So I really hope the listeners can hear you right now, because that dog is losing her freaking mind. So sorry if you guys are hearing all that, but yeah, no, I just, it makes me wonder, man, because like I'm going to Wisconsin next year on 100 acres of private land that has been hunted in like 15 years. And I'm super hyped about that. And I'm curious to see what the difference is going to be, because I feel like Georgia deer don't really like to fight. I mean, I've seen antler tickling. I've heard one time years ago, 2 bucks getting at it. I couldn't see what they were or anything, but I could hear them.
Right.
And other than that, I don't really see it much, and I don't know if it's just southern deer don't really like to fight, or I'm not in the areas to see them fight.
Yeah, I think it's got more to do with that buck to doe ratio, because if there's way more does than there is bucks, they don't have to search or anything to find a doe. So there's not like a competition for it. But if there's only one deer in the area and you got a bunch of bucks, they're gonna fight it out for that one doe sitting there. Versus if there's 20 does out there, why fight? Just go pick you out one.
So what you're saying is a PSA for everyone listening: shoot more does.
I think you got to regulate it and get it where it needs to be. There's some areas that have the exact opposite problem. They got too many bucks and not enough does, but you got to look at the area where you're at and try to get, that ratio that works best. And I think that's when they become a little more receptive to calls and all, because it's just like, these areas that have overloaded with does. I mean, there's no reason for that buck to fight or whatever. And, if he hears a grunt call, that, he's coming in to fight. So it all boils around fighting. And, there's no reason to fight when you just go out there and take your pick. So I think that's got a little bit to do with how receptive they are to calls as well.
Yeah, because I mean, I early on was told, like, in the rut, make sure you hit the grunt call, hit the bleak can, hit the antlers. And dude, I've done all of that, and it's only like literally that one time with that giant buck. It's the only time it's ever worked for me.
Right.
So I think I hear people say it about Georgia too. Like, Georgia deer do not like being grunted at. That's just kind of like a general thing that everybody kind of says. So
the way I see the grunts is it's almost not, I'm not as worried about scaring the animal with a grunt as I am beating some antlers together. I've seen them get leery and totally leave over some rattling and all. It's to where a grunt, if they don't like it, they're just going to kind of look at you and then go on about their own way. It's not going to push them away. So I'm never really scared to throw a grunt at them, a little light grunt, because even if they don't want to investigate, it's not going to change their pattern that much, you know. But if you go to tickling antlers or whatever, if he's not wanting to fight or feels threatened or whatever, he might totally leave the area. And I've seen some big deer that just don't like confrontation. They're antisocial. So anything like that might push them away. It's just like people, you know, you got so many different characteristics. You know, some deer stay within a 10-acre area. Some deer roam miles. Some deer fat, some are skinny. You know, all of them have got, you know, their own little mindset and everything. And you almost got to sit there and pick out and know what he's going to do, where he's going to be, how he's thinking, you know, because I know deer that, you know, would leave a whole area for the rut. And then once rut was over, they came right back.
Yeah.
There's all different traits these deer take on. So, you know, it's kind of figuring out the uniqueness of each one. Because what one deer does, another deer's not going to do, you know, and I think that's what keeps us guessing.
Yeah. I mean, it keeps it interesting, that's for sure.
It does. Second you try to figure it out or think you've got it figured out, they'll humble you really, really quick.
Dude. Last year for me, when I was hunting that deer named Trike, I was just talking to a buddy of mine about it, that I thought I had him pegged, and I saw him one time, then he disappears. He got killed, or he moved off. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I take that as like, you know, the good Lord being like, look, man, you just didn't fully have it figured out. Like, don't go around saying opening day, he's dead. And then, you know, like, I don't even see him. So I guess the transition from the rut to late season, I think you and I are probably on the same page with this, but like, what's y'all's late season strategy? Are you just straight up full on feeding? Or
because they'll start developing a pattern back once they recover from the rut, which lots of times, you know, you hear about the lockdown phase where you'll go 2 weeks and not see, you know, your target buck or what you're after. And that is, you know, they will hang up for a little while, you know, typically. You know, I've seen it as early as late November and run for 2 or 3 weeks. But
aren't they just locked down with the does for a couple of days though?
Yeah, you know, a doe's not in estrus but for like 36 to 48 hours. And that's why I'm not so sure those bucks aren't so beat down from the rut. They just fall over and lay on their side and don't move.
Just take a break.
You know, because a doe's actually not in estrus, but I think it's like 36 to 48 hours is all they're in estrus for.
Yeah.
So there's not that big of a time period for them to be locked down. But I honestly, one of the bigger deer I've killed in Georgia, he showed up real late November, and man, I felt sorry for him. He looked so bad. He had lost all his body weight. I mean, it looked like every step hurt him. His tongue was hanging out. He was in poor shape. And I think to a degree, they worked themselves into such a just chaos that they just want to lay down for a couple of weeks and not do anything.
It's like being 18 up in Athens, man.
They want to take a vacation for a little while and not do too much.
I mean, I had that happen a couple years back, dude. That same deer that I thought I had pattern, he dropped one side in middle of November. Like, was gone for 2 weeks, came back, had both sides. The next day, he shows up and he's got just one side, and he's skinny as all get out. I basically, I'm not gonna say I ended my season, but I fully focused on just protein. I gave him so much food. And you know, now looking back, it's kind of a waste of money, but you know, it's not, because he made it through. But I mean, those deer, and it's funny because like last season I had the same mentality. You know, I got this spot middle of the year, so like my first sit was November. Oh God, 9th. No. Second or third weekend in November. I don't remember, but and I'm thinking, all right, it's rut, put estrus out, put this out, put a camera out. Had a bunch of bucks. So I was very confident. And then saw a couple, didn't, I had that one that showed up that I would have shot. I didn't get a shot off. But after that, man, it was just late season. I was feeding.
Yeah.
And I think at that point I had probably done a lot of damage because I just got
right.
so obsessed with it.
Yeah.
That I'm like, oh, food's gone. All right, go and put more. And they patterned me 100%.
Right.
So is that something you guys run into, like just feeding in general? Have they gotten used to y'all coming in, putting food out, and then leaving?
Yeah, they do. They do. They get used to us because I'll watch cameras, and sometimes after I make a feed run, whether it be midday or whatever, I can pick up my camera about 30 minutes later and there's a couple of deer filtering in there. They associate that noise with feed, and they'll come in. Your mature bucks are not going to do it as much because they pretty much kind of know what's up, but they get used to it. They get anything you do consistently. Like I'll tell you, I had a big deer years ago and they do a lot of quail hunting where I hunt. And so I came in and I said, I'm going to go hunt Tupac today. I said, conditions are right for that area. Wind's right. I'm going to go in there and try to hunt him. And the farm manager said, well, we quail hunted in there this morning. You might not want to go in there.
Mm-hmm.
And, I said, they're used to this quail hunting. It's not going to bother them. We went in there that afternoon and killed him.
Nice.
So I think when there's repetitive anything, they kind of get used to it. So, when we're feeding year round, they associate the sound of, that side by side coming in with food. So a lot of them, when they do hear it, they'll kind of get up and meander in there. And
do y'all kind of have a strategy? Because this is something I should have done last year, but I really had no way of doing it. But like my truck's pretty loud, right? Doesn't have a muffler. I need to get one put on it. But what I noticed last year, and that's why I think I didn't kill this buck I was after, because it was 1 acre, and he was bedded around somewhere he could hear me. He had to have been.
Right.
But do you guys, like, say you've got the feeder and it's, you continuously keep feeding, these deer getting used to, and you've got a mature buck that's showing up. Do y'all do you have someone drive you in and drop you off at the stand and then drive out? So
no,
seems,
like in the
what you usually do.
In the evening time, I'm not too worried about going in because most of them are bedded up, and as long as you pretty careful and quiet, you can get in there. What I don't like is when I'm in the stand and there's a target deer that's out in front of me 20 yards and it's gotten dark. So lots of times when I'm in that scenario, I might text somebody to drive down in there and pick me up and let the car lights push all those deer out of the field, because typically they're used to, traffic at night or whatever from time to time. So the vehicles typically don't bother them. I'd rather that vehicle bump them than me clanging and rattling and a bunch of movement.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, when it's pretty dark, obviously a deer can see pretty good at night because they move around and wander through the woods all night long. So I feel like it gives your position away a little bit. And if that deer ever figures out your position, he's going to check on it as soon as he comes out every time. So I'm not worried about it as much going in. Now, if I was hunting morning time, it's a weird deal. Our farm hunts better in the evening time, and typically I don't hunt a lot during the morning unless it's the rut. And you don't have as much to worry about during the rut because deer are scattered everywhere chasing this and that, so you're not dealing with something that's on a consistent pattern. But yeah, I'm not a big morning hunter, only during the rut, or if I've got a deer showing up every morning, of course I'm going to jump in the stand and go try to kill him. But most of our action is best off in the evening time.
Yeah, that's what I've been noticing too. Like I had last year gone in, and it was actually during the rut, and I don't know what was going on with this buck. He's still around. I mean, I've been watching him all year, but it was either my first sit or one of the first sits. But I go in there, and the way this property is set up is there's a church that I have to walk next to. Like I walk the wood line next to it, and there's one street light, and I'm all set up. I got my stand on my back, bow in my hand, all this other stuff, and I'm walking up, and I make it maybe 40 yards from the truck, and I look up, and here comes this deer walking
Right.
directly to me, and
Right.
I'm like, what do I do? He's gonna walk into me. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do here. I got nowhere to hop off and
Uh-huh.
get away. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stand still. So I stand still, and I watch this buck come within 10 yards of me under this street light.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
Doesn't see me, nothing, and he looks up, and he's like, kind of like looking
Uh-huh.
around, like, what are you? And then he runs off, and I'm
Yeah.
like, this is why I hate hunting mornings here. So
Yeah.
I refuse to do it now. I mean, it's just
Yeah. And the bad thing about the morning is the deer are already on their feet.
mm-hmm.
So you're pushing stuff around when you go in. And, like when we hunt out in the Midwest, or out west a bunch, they won't hunt in the morning time, especially early season. Now, during the rut, they will.
Yeah.
But early season, they never hunt during the mornings. They don't want you to hunt, during the mornings because, all the deer are out in the fields and feeding and all. And when you go in there, you just push everything out. So if I do hunt in the mornings, I'm in there a good hour, hour and a half before it even starts cracking daylight. Because once I do disrupt everything, I want it to have time to settle back down a little bit before it gets time shooting light. So when I do hunt in the mornings, I'm in there fairly early, really early, because I want everything to settle back down after I've disrupted everything going in. Is to where when you go in during the evenings, everything's bedded up, hopefully asleep, so you can sneak in there real quiet and they never know you're there.
Dude, one of the craziest stories I ever heard, and I'm curious if you know who I'm talking about. You ever heard of a guy named Glenn Solomon?
That name rings a bell. That last name Solomon, but
He was a really he passed away a few years ago. And he was a very, very successful deer hunter in like the South. And he was on the Southern Outdoorsman podcast one time talking about his strategy. And I don't know if I could do this because I just don't think I'd have the mental fortitude to do it. But this man used to get up at midnight and go on public land, middle of the night, pick out a tree. I guess he had already picked it out or just find a good tree. I don't know. But he would go in there and he would set his stand up and climb up that tree at like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And sit the whole time and wait. And he said, he's like, when I've done that, even if you bust something out, the amount of time you're talking sometimes 6-7 hours before the sun comes up. Like you're not really, you don't have to worry about being quiet. It doesn't matter what you're doing because those deer are going to completely forget by that time what happened because they're not used to that. Nobody does that. So I mean, I heard that and I started thinking about it. I was like, God, dude, my wife would kill me if I did that, but that might actually work. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that, but
Bill, he went as far as one of those big deer he killed a few years ago. He was sleeping in the woods right there by his stand.
I thought about that.
And I mean, he went that far. It was a giant deer. I can't remember how big it was. I want to say it was like a 200-inch deer, but he was in an area to where coming in and going out was very well known and spooking a lot of stuff. So he just lived in there and killed
crazy,
it.
Man. The things we do.
Oh, I'm telling you. And that's
wild,
why I get there so early, before morning hunt when I hunt in the morning. During the rut, it's not as big of a problem because those bucks are running around chasing does everywhere. So they're kind of used to hearing that racket of footsteps and running and a little bit of noise. So I don't think it affects them quite as much, during the rut. But if it's regular time of the year and I'm going to go in after 1, I'm going to be in there, a good hour and a half before it breaks day just to let everything settle down. It can be challenging lots of times getting in and getting out. And a lot of people are planting shields and stuff with that Egyptian wheat and sorghum mix and all that gives them a little cover going from to to fro. And that can work real well. So there's lots of options out there. But I've never really hunted a whole lot in the mornings other than the rut unless I just got one really dialed in. Plus, I'm not much of a morning person. I hate getting up early. So
Yeah, I mean, I used to love it, and I mean, I've killed, I think up to now, I've probably killed about as many deer in the morning as I have in the evening, if not a little bit more in the evening. But I've seen more deer in the evening.
Right.
And my thing is, I don't know what happened to me. Like, I'm originally from Illinois, so I should be used to cold weather. When I
Right.
go out in that cold weather in the morning now, my
Yeah.
God, is it just biting
Yeah.
at me? So I'm like, I'll just pass. I'll go in the afternoon. I'm
Yeah.
good. But yeah, man, I don't know. There's so much to all this. That's why I wanted to get you on here and kind of get a completely different perspective, because Jay does a lot of suburban hunting. I
Correct.
had Harry on here who does nothing but public. And
Correct.
we kind of had
Correct.
every single, Joe Miles came on here and he was
Yeah.
talking about like his
Hmm.
favorite time's the rut because you get funnels and you can pinpoint them down and all of that.
Uh-huh.
So man, I'm happy that you were the last Whitetail series episode because I feel like it's a
Yeah.
good way to end it off. Like we've covered everything aside from
Yeah.
high fence and poaching, and neither of those things I'm going to talk about.
Yeah. And
So,
that's the best way to do it, to get a bunch of different perspectives. Because I always tell people there's more than one way to skin a cat.
yeah,
Just because somebody does it different than me doesn't mean it's not going to work. There's a lot of good ways out there, and I still learn every time I step foot in the woods or talk to somebody. One of my favorite things is to talk to the older generation,
yep.
and listen to their stories. They can tell you where some deer are,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, and listen to what they did back in the day. There's always something to learn. And I think if you ever stop learning, it's time to quit. So the best thing to do is to get a bunch of people's ideas, because I'll be talking to somebody and go, God, I never thought about that. I'm going to
yeah,
try that. So it's always good to get a lot of different perspectives, because you learn a lot of different stuff, because a lot of this stuff transitions. What works in the suburban areas works, in different areas. So, there's a lot of stuff that correlates, but there's a lot of stuff that's specific to, you know, different terrain, different scenarios, and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
yes.
Well, I mean, even like having everything that I have, like every single person that's been on here, the one thing that's been consistent is creeks. Creek
Right.
bottom. That's why I brought it up, because it's like every single episode I
Mm-hmm.
hear creek bottoms get brought up. And I'm like, all right, that is
Right.
clearly something that people may not know. I didn't know it. I mean, I've
Right.
set up on creeks before, didn't even think about it, and I've seen deer.
Yeah. It's just
So
so easy to find them and to pinpoint them. And
yeah,
lots of times you can find those areas, I like finding an area that they cannot cross, and then I'll walk it until I find that area they can cross. And usually there's just a beat up trail right there at the first place they can actually cross. So, it helps you. It's a good starting point, if nothing
yeah.
else. And I've just always liked to sit near water. I don't know what it is. I guess I'm like a turkey roost, and I just like
Yeah.
to
You
be
like
around.
mosquitoes, that's what it is.
No, gosh, I hate man. I look like I'm landing a plane in the tree, because I try. Thermocells work very, very well, but I try to keep my scent to a minimum in that kind of stuff, which I've killed a bunch of big bucks, big mature bucks with a thermocell running.
Yeah.
But if the wind's ever a little dicey and I'm not liking it, I won't fire it up, and I'll come out there, because I got whatever blood type mosquitoes love. I mean,
Oh,
I can
dude.
look like Pigpen, but it's mosquitoes around me, and the two people standing next to me, they're not even touching them. So
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but yeah, I get ate up early season, and if the wind's marginal or iffy, I won't fire a thermocell up, and I'll just sit there and take it. Man, God, it looks like I'm some kind of avenger when
Like
I
a
walk.
leper.
Yeah, it's just hard, but
Man. But hey, that's
yeah,
part of hunting Georgia, dude. We got mosquitoes
it
and
it is. I mean,
boy.
those mosquitoes look like baby Hueys. I mean, they are just horrible. And that's one reason I like the cold weather, because them suckers die off, and you don't have to worry about the no-see-ums are just as bad as the mosquitoes, if not
Yeah.
worse.
See, my thing that I hate the most, I can deal with mosquitoes, I can deal with no CMs, I can deal with all of that. It's walking in. Do you know how many spider webs I have to take down
Yeah.
every single time. Those Joro spiders that we got, my goodness, dude.
Yeah,
It's an invasion.
bad.
Like
Yeah.
that's the whole reason or not the whole reason, but a big reason why I'm not going to go hunt in the mornings until it starts cooling off. Cause it's like,
Right.
I've already walked into probably about 5 every time I've gone to this one spot to feed. And that's in the daytime. And there's no being quiet if I'm walking through and all I got is this little headlamp and I don't see that giant 4-inch spider.
That's
and
right.
then I walk through that and get a face full of it. Nope, I might as well go home at that point because
I know it.
I'll come unglued. Like, I don't mind spiders, but I'm good, man.
It's not good walking through them.
No, but man, look, I appreciate you coming on here.
Absolutely.
You really, really, seriously were the best person to get on here to sort of cap off the Whitetail series. You know, George Boy, everybody loves you. You're a national treasure.
I don't know about all that.
Well, I have said it to many people, and they're like, "You're right." I still am trying to grow the mustache. I'm trying to convince my wife to let me do it.
Yeah. Join the old mustache militia.
Yep. Got a lot of the that's where all the magic's at. It's your mustache is like Samson's hair. You cut that, all of it goes away.
It's actually, I've had it, you know, it's a trait of firefighters. So, you know, it goes back with the history of firefighters, and you know, a lot of the firefighters you see will actually have them, and it's kind of funny why they do. It's nasty, but it's funny. But, you know, back before we had BAs and all to breathe good air in a fire, you know, they went in with nothing. And when you breathe in a lot of smoke, your nose will start running big time. So this was a filter to keep it from getting in your mouth. And so that's why all firemen, you know, back in the old days had mustaches. It was a freaking filter, you know.
I need to ask my uncle if he's ever done that, because he used to be a fire chief in Chicago. My grandfather was too, and I don't remember them ever having a mustache, man.
Yeah,
like they always had the goatees or nothing. So,
see, they won't let us wear goatees because of the face seal with the face piece. It'll mess your seal up, which it really doesn't matter. Everything's positive pressure nowadays, but you don't want to lose any more air than you got to because you might need it. So I get just behind it. But yeah, they won't let us have a goatee or anything or any facial hair, mustache.
Are you guys going into fires with air tanks strapped to your backs?
Oh yeah, it's just compressed air is what it is.
Are they rated for that type of heat though? Because I mean, that's basically like, okay,
they're
rated. Because I work in the fire business, and like, the thought of that is a little that would sketch me out a bit.
Yeah, no, they'll take it. They'll take unbelievable heat, and they've got a rupture valve in the bottom of them to where, you know, if the pressure gets too high, it'll pop that rupture disc and dump all your air out. But you're never going to be in a scenario to where it gets that hot. But there is a safety feature to where the tank won't explode on your back.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, dude, I know these fire extinguishers and stuff are rated for heat, but I mean, I don't know anything about it, you know? Like, all I'm thinking of is like those big air tanks you see scuba divers wearing, and you're just kind of puffing through there.
Yeah, they used to be steel a long time ago. The first ones that came out were steel cylinders, and they were really, really heavy. And then they went to aluminum wrap cylinders, which part of it was aluminum, and they had a wrap on it to lighten the load, the weight a little bit. And then they went to carbon cylinders, which what we're using now, that's full carbon wrap, and it's really, really lightweight. So, it's changed a little bit. Can you still see me?
Yeah.
For some reason, my phone's going off, and I lost the screen for some reason.
Tell Tyler and Bill that you're a little busy. We're almost done here. It's okay. I'm just kidding.
Make sure so it doesn't. Trying to pull it back up because I click on Zoom. I'm about to click this button. There we go. Well,
is it working?
I don't know. I can't get my screen back up. Ain't no telling.
That's all good, man. No worries.
It's all good.
Because of that we'll just have to wrap it up right there, I suppose. I don't know. Man, look, thank you.
I'm seriously trying to figure this out.
Oh, you're all good, man. But I do appreciate you coming on here and dropping the knowledge. I mean, you, like I said, you know, you're one of my favorite people to get on here. I feel very blessed to be able to hit you up anytime and have, if I have questions or just see how you're doing, get you
That's
on
right.
here. And like I said, man, the people love you. You know, you really are becoming, like, in my opinion, one of the main faces of Realtree. That if I say anything about Realtree, like, oh yeah, Michael Pitts. I mean, it really is, you know, it's the way I look at it. It's you, Tyler, Bill, and David,
Yeah.
the big four, you know, like
Yeah.
you guys have, I mean, the company's been around for forever at this
Oh
point.
God.
Y'all, the
Yeah.
stuff you guys put out, yeah,
Yeah.
like the stuff you guys put out, it's top notch. And I've always been a huge fan. So to be
Yeah.
able to get you on, like I said, it's a blessing. It truly is.
Oh, anytime, man. I enjoy it. Anytime I can get on and talk about hunting and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be a good time because that's what it's all about at the end of the day is having fun. So if you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, dude. Well, I don't know. Later in the season, I start not having fun because it's so
There's
frustrating.
times,
But
yeah, there's times
yeah,
where I start pulling hair out, but all in all, it should be about fun, having fun, being with your friends and family, enjoying life, all that kind of stuff. So
yep,
that's what it's all
100%,
about.
man. Awesome, dude. Well, thank you for coming on. That's a wrap on the Whitetail series, and we, I guess, are going to do this again after season to see what giant buck you kill this year.
That sounds like a plan to me.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
No problem.